your weekend is off to a great start. Thanks for joining us on Sports4CLE. A little bit later in the show, we will be joined by Munch Bishop. We'll talk some Cavs along with Indians. Indians getting ready to start a 3-game series against the Toronto Blue Jays. But we begin by talking Browns, and we will welcome in cleveland.com and plain dealer columnist Doug Lesmerises as we talk about the Browns. And Doug, let's begin with an interesting one. Adam Schein, CBS Sports, NFL.com, bold predictions for 2021. And his bold prediction, Myles Garrett will break the single-season sack record, currently held by Michael Strahan, 22.5 sacks. It has been there since 2001.
Not crazy? Is that – it's hard – as good as Myles has been, I think we all probably agree we haven't seen the best of him yet, right? Because, I mean, his first year, he kind of had the slow start with the injury. And, I mean, he's been sort of caught in the same turmoil that Baker Mayfield's been caught in. And we talk about it all the time with Baker. You know, Myles has had that too. The way he played early last year, he was winning games by himself, right? Strip sacks, and everybody's going crazy. Then he gets COVID, and he's not quite himself after that. You know, I mean, that's, of course, it's a super high bar. But I think the fact of we haven't seen the best of Myles, and he's never had a threat like Clowney opposite him, not to that level. I'm actually slightly skeptical of like, well, I mean, what are they going to do? Double team Clowney and leave Myles alone? I think it might actually be a lesser effect than people are anticipating with that. It's going to help Clowney more than it's going to help Myles, but he's got that kind of talent. And I think the other thing that you add into something like this is if you figure the Browns are going to be ahead and teams are going to be chasing them, they're going to have to throw, and then Myles is going to be let loose to get after the quarterback. So I think there are multiple things that make this not incredibly impossible.
Would you put Myles Garrett as a potential, leading guy to win the NFL Defensive Player of the Year? I think he was on target to do that before he got knocked down with COVID a season ago.
I think there's a Baker Mayfield part of that equation, because when you look at like MVP odds right now, right? I mean, thankfully, I think everybody by now has come around on the idea that the Browns are an absolutely legitimate Super Bowl contender. But Baker's not like a top 10 MVP guy. You know, almost everybody else, it's like, well, if people think you're going to go to the Super Bowl, then people think your quarterback might win the MVP. That's not how Baker is viewed. This is a full rounded offense from Nick Chubb to Odell to the offensive line. So if the Browns are good and you want to reward that, I think the way you might reward it with individual awards is Myles Garrett, which is, okay, well, he's the guy. No doubt about it. He's the number one guy on that defense. We think that defense is going to be a lot better. He's going to put up numbers. And if the Browns are like the 1 or 2 seed in the AFC, and you say, well, why are they so good? It's like, well, maybe the first name you think about is Myles Garrett. And that kind of thing does influence it, for sure. So, yeah, I mean, I think for multiple reasons, starting with Myles' own skills, but I think there's a lot of things around it that could make that possible.
So that same article that Adam Schein wrote, he has the Bengals winning more games than the Pittsburgh Steelers. You buying that one?
So, right, sometimes great teams fall off cliffs. And I think it's possible that the cliff was actually like the last 6 games of last year. That when we look back at the history of this era of the Steelers, it's going to be, that 11-0 start, and then from then on was the beginning of the end. And this is the continuation of what we started to see at the end of last year. So when you think about some of the people that they lost, listen, they still have Chase Claypool. They still have Cam Hayward. They have a lot of good players. You never know with Ben. Quarterbacks last forever now. But if you believe in Joe Burrow, they had Jamar Chase. You know, I think Zach Taylor is the most interesting part of that equation. I would rather bet on Mike Tomlin than the Bengals coach, but I don't think it's impossible. Again, is that a way to – what a hedge. Not impossible. Thanks for your strong take, Doug. But I get where that kind of thinking is coming from, because that's Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon kind of stuff. And is Mike Tomlin going to be able to hold it together by himself if the rest of that team is sort of coming apart at the seams?
Yeah, that's fair enough. All right, so let's take a look. Jadeveon Clowney sending out some pictures via Instagram. He's working out, getting ready to be paired with Myles Garrett. And it says, league, stay tuned. So you pair that next to the athletic specimen we know that is Myles Garrett. And quarterbacks going to be a little bit concerned when the guys in the orange helmets have their number kind of zeroed in on.
Is that photo a challenge to me, Dave? You want to see what I got under here?
I think we're good. Now. It's a family show now, Doug. I think we're good.
This is, I mean, I run like a 10-minute mile. So, listen, what a great little juice in the middle of a career, right? I think sometimes we can think that Clowney is older than he is because he's kind of been around. He's been on multiple teams now. He's had kind of multiple sort of injury issues. This is still a young man in the world, man. And I think, like, you know, guess who looks awesome in workout videos and is doing, you know, 100-foot leaps onto stacks of, Myles Garrett. So Jadeveon Clowney, it's like, hey, don't sleep on me, man. I mean, that is I think he's in a great psychological place because I do think he will be motivated by being with Myles Garrett and helped by being with Myles Garrett. And again, I would not, as a team, I would not have wanted to spend a boatload of money to sign Jadeveon Clowney to be my number one pass rusher because I don't know where he is on that scale anymore. I think the Titans found that out a little bit last year. But if he's my number two and the price the Browns got him at, and then Andrew Berry's looking at that picture and saying, like, we got that guy at a bargain price, man. Like that, there's a lot coming together here. That picture mostly tells me that he's taking this as a challenge, that he wants to make sure he's not an afterthought to Myles Garrett.
That's a guy also that is due for some good luck health-wise. Some of his injuries have been kind of the freakish nature, so let's hope Jadeveon Clowney gets some of that good luck in health battles there. So Bleacher Report came out. Every NFL team's most important training camp battle. For the Browns, Greedy Williams versus Greg Newsome. I think this one's going to be very interesting and fascinating to watch.
I hope it's a little bit like what I think the Ohio State quarterback battle is, which is you don't know who's going to win for sure. Who wins does matter. If you get caught up in the who, you can be very confused. But I think you probably should believe that, like, it's going to be somebody pretty good. So, like, I don't think, like, if Greedy Williams is not back, then it's going to be Greg Newsome by default. But if Greedy Williams is recovered from the nerve issue from last year, then I think someone will win that job. I don't think it'll be that somebody loses it. And it's like, well, we can't play that guy. We got to play the other guy. I think it'll be like, man, Greedy's looking like, okay, this is why we took him in the second round. And, Newsome, that's why he was a top 4 corner in the draft. For the Browns' sake, I hope that's what that is. And then it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter who wins as long as cornerback number 2, because Denzel Ward's cornerback number 1, as long as quarterback number 2 is good. And I think either of them could be that. But I feel much better about the Browns having both of them, because if it was only a guy coming off injury or only a rookie, then it's like, well, I'm a little uncertain. But it's like, I think there's like a 60 or 70% chance for both of them to be good. And so you add that together, that's like 140%. That's a lock. So I think they'll get a good corner out of that. But, like, I'm not going to be wound up in like, I think it should be Newsome or I think it should be Greedy. Because I don't think it should. I just think it should be the best guy. And I think at least one of them, and maybe both of them, will look like starting corners in camp.
And the other one, whichever one is not the starting corners, probably going to get a decent amount of snaps, provided they play the way the Browns think they're capable of playing.
And, I'm not against this. Denzel Ward knows this from Ohio State. He was in a 3-man cornerback rotation through 2 spots. And I'm not in a hurry to take Denzel off the field. But if you have 3 corners you can believe in, I don't know that any of them fit in the slot or you'd really do that. But you can give Denzel a blow for a series and let Greedy and Newsome handle it and rotate Greedy and Newsome to some extent. Because if you're chasing, Tyreek Hill and Stephon Diggs down the field in the playoffs, it's nice to have a break. And if you have 3 outside corners you believe in for 2 outside corner spots, that's a nice luxury. You may as well use it.
And it could keep everybody healthier for 17 games now as well. Doug Lesmerises, columnist for The Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com, and I'm going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, the NFL triplets for each team are ranked. We'll take a look at where the Browns triplets rank. Also, the Browns win total. You going over or under? Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Life is starting to get back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tric-edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Sports for CLE continues. I'm Dave Bacon. We continue talking Browns. This is from Fox Bet Live. Clay Travis on whether over or under for the Browns win total for 2021.
I know it's 9.5. The over, huge favorite here. Huge favorite. Clay, what do you like?
You know what? I'm going to go over. And look, we get Odell Beckham Jr. back if you are a Browns fan, as I know you have suddenly become one, Rachel Vanetta. I like the evolution that we saw in Baker Mayfield down the stretch of the season. They got the proverbial monkey off their back by going on the road, winning against Pittsburgh. They put themselves in a position to win late against the Chiefs. Were not able to do so. They have that rematch early on that opening Thursday night game, if I'm not mistaken. Phenomenal game between the Chiefs and the Browns. I can't wait to see what's going to happen there. But you look at Myles Garrett, also now the addition. We'll see whether or not he has anything left of Jadeveon Clowney on the other side of the offensive line, our defensive line. By the way, you see the dunk that Myles Garrett put up that was pretty viral. Great basketball player. I think the Browns hit the over, have a chance to win the AFC North.
Let's bring back in Doug Lesmerises, columnist for cleveland.com, as well as the Plain Dealer. And Doug, we've talked about this quite a bit. Ravens, Browns, 1-1A for the division, I believe. What do you think?
Can I get 9.5 somewhere? I'll have to bet is the Browns are going to go 10-7 and I win the over. I don't believe that line. I'll tell you. So I live in Ohio. We're in Ohio. It's an Ohio show. I'm originally from Pennsylvania. I went to go see my mom a couple weeks ago. And in Pennsylvania, you can bet now, right? And Ohio's going to get it coming. So everyone's talking about betting all the time. So I wanted to see like how you do it on the app and everything. So I put a couple bucks in, $25. I'm a meager man. And the Browns line there was 10.5. Did they forget that it's a 17-game season? 9.5 is insane to me. But I hit that 10.5 for a solid $10 just to see how the app worked. They could sleepwalk to 10-7, but I felt very good about hitting over 10.5, 11-6. I mean, when I looked at the schedule, I said 12-5 or 13-4. So whoever is setting that 9.5 over underline, I got $10 for you that says they go way over that. It's like the analysis is like, well, Miles, it's like, you don't even have to be good to be 10-7. And I know it's like, they have a third place schedule. First of all, they have a third place schedule. I know they play the Chiefs. I know they play the Packers. I get it. But there's a bunch of other teams, very mediocre teams that are on that schedule as well. So, yeah, man, I'm up to 12 or 13. And if Clay Travis thinks he's putting a stake in the ground going over 9.5, congratulations.
All right. Now, the other thing you wrote about, you had some timing where you thought it was a really good idea to wait a little bit before you bet on the Browns. Take us through when you think the best time to bet the over on the Browns will be. Because I know you're like a high-stakes guy.
Listen, I'm trying to win my $6 on this, right? Right. Watch the clock. When the clock ticks down on that week 1 loss to Kansas City, and everybody says, well, I don't know. I don't know about the Browns now. Hammer it. Hammer, win the division. Hammer over-under on the wins. Save your Super Bowl bet until then. Because, listen, they're not going to go to Kansas City and win week 1. What? If you think they're going to go 16-1, that's the loss. The Chiefs, mad the way the Super Bowl went at home, right? I mean, you're not going to win that game. And then people are coming around on it now. The nation is always about 2 months behind us here in Cleveland. We're trendsetters. So we've known since January the Browns are one of the 4 best teams in the NFL. People are finally realizing that, but I'm waiting for the nation to give up on them because they lost to the Chiefs on the road. So wait for that. Don't bet your $10 yet. Don't be like me. Wait, just chill out, and then let everybody give up on them after they lose to the AFC favorite on the road, and then they'll, get easily over their win total. But I'll be very curious, Dave, because I just don't think they win that game. And I'm just waiting for the reaction. It's like the overreaction to 1 loss to a very good team. I think some people will sort of give up on the bubble will burst a little bit.
Yeah, that's fair enough. All right, let's now look NFL triplets ranking. This is according to CBSSports.com, and so it's a quarterback, a running back, and a wide receiver. And the Browns triplets are Mayfield, Chubb, and Beckham, and they have them ranked way down at 11. 1 is the Packers, Rodgers, Jones, and Adams. 2, the Chiefs. They have Mahomes, Edwards-Helaire, and Kelsey. Cowboys, Prescott, Elliott, Cooper. 11 seems awfully low for the Browns.
I mean, Nick Chubb is better than any of the running backs you've listed so far. And Odell Beckham at his best, which I understand if you can't bank on that, is like a top 10 receiver. So, no, I think they stack up very well. I remember very vividly, when they got Odell, and I think I did a thing of the big 4. They're big 4. And I threw Jarvis in there with Baker, Miles, Jarvis, and Odell. And then you add Chubb in there. I mean, it's it is a depth of talent, but I do think, I don't have the whole list in front of me. It's there's a lot of teams, even the Bucks, right? It's all right, Tom Brady, and then you go Mike Evans or Chris Godwin, but who's there? Right? Ronald Jones, Leonard Fournette. I don't know. It's the Browns are pretty good at each position. Again, it's that perception of Baker that's going to hold them back a little bit. But Nick Chubb's as good as it gets, man. And then you gotta see healthy Odell. And then, by the way, if you don't want to throw Odell in there, throw Jarvis in there, and they move up higher than 11th.
Yeah, and again, it's the Browns are really deep. You could make a case, that the offensive line is the best in football.
Yeah, no, that's the part of it. I do think it's interesting, and it's worthwhile to break teams down into segments, right? But I still think that they would be higher than 11th in that regard. But there is a depth of talent there. I'd almost like to do your secondary triplets, your second best running back, your second best receiver, right? I think that's where the Browns really shine. It's all right, now we're doing Jarvis, now we're doing Kareem Hunt. It's almost like that next tier of their own guys is sometimes where they really shine.
Yeah, without question. Doug Lesmerises and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, are the Browns going to trade for Julio Jones? Plus, Next Gen Stats ranks the top deep passers in the NFL. Baker Mayfield on that list. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Life is starting to get back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tric-edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
COVID-19 has changed how we show up and show out with our family. Now it's time to take the first step that lets us get back to talking smack with a side of mac and cheese. Before we can safely come together, we need the facts. As COVID-19 vaccines become available, you may have questions. Should I get it? Is it safe?
Should I wait?
It's smart to question. Now, get the facts at getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision when vaccines are available to you.
Welcome back to Sports for CLE. I'm Dave Bacon. We continue talking Browns football with plain dealer and cleveland.com columnist Doug Lesmerises. So, Doug, a lot has been made nationally of Julio Jones pretty much saying and confirming that he wants out of Atlanta. Won't happen until after June 1st just because of salary cap issues. That's when it doesn't count as much against the cap. Everybody is making lists, and the Browns are usually on that list. Your thoughts? Is there any way that Julio Jones is coming to the Browns?
As I often do when we talk about the Browns, I'm just going to repeat Mary Kay Cabot. And I think Mary Kay said it's not going to happen. So that's what I'm going off of. Listen, it reminds me a lot of the Aaron Rodgers stuff, right? It's like, well, is Julio Jones better than some receivers the Browns have? Yeah. Is Aaron Rodgers better than Baker Mayfield? Yeah. Could they theoretically trade their guy to get a slightly better guy? Yeah, I guess they theoretically could. Like, do I think they're going to? No. Do I think they should? No, I guess not. Like, if they said, we'll trade you, Julio Jones straight up for somebody, it's like, I guess I'd think about it. But I do, you don't want to get too Pollyanna about it. It's like, oh, these guys love each other or whatever. Like, listen, talent wins. So Julio Jones is a great talent. But I do think they've built a little core here that have kind of been building towards something together. And like the guys they've added, they haven't had to give up guys for it, right? So, I think I saw somebody propose some trade that was like Jarvis and picks or something for Julio Jones. And as much as that's a talent upgrade, that would be hard. That would be a risk to me to do a minus in getting your plus. John Johnson didn't cost you anything. He didn't cost you a dude. That's a different kind of equation. And I'm not sure I'd want to mess with it, for not, he's getting up there. He's still a supremely talented guy. If someone like the Titans gets him, you just plug him in next to A.J. Brown and you're ready to roll. I don't think you're costing yourself something. I just think the Browns are kind of set in some ways, which is I don't know, you're really turning down Aaron Rodgers. I guess whatever, but I don't feel a need to do it. And I don't feel a need for the Browns to get Julio Jones. So I just think they won't. And Mary Kay said they won't. And so good luck in Tennessee or wherever he lands. But the Browns have a bunch of receivers.
Yeah, and the other thing is you've got $15+ million tied up between Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry. Julio's in that ballpark. He's probably a little less, but not much. And I just don't see them taking on another big salary. All right, next-gen stats, analytics-driven stat thing. Top deep passers of 2020. Now, a deep pass is that has gone 20 or plus yards in the air. Baker Mayfield is ranked 6th, and Baker has a 5-to-2 touchdown to interception ratio, and he completed almost 50% of his balls that traveled at least 20 yards in the air. Now, number 1, Daniel Jones. 2 is Derek Carr. 3 is Kyler Murray. 4, Aaron Rodgers. 5, Deshaun Watson. And 6, Baker Mayfield. So he is among the tops in the league throwing the ball downfield.
When you said number 1, Daniel Jones, I thought, do you want to be on this list? Is this a plus to be on this list? Because here, I think, is a complicating factor about stuff like that. So on our Gotta Watch the Tape podcast with Ellis Williams and Scott Pasco and I talking about this stuff, we did a lot of conversating. Is that a word? We had talked a lot last year about after Odell Beckham Jr. got hurt, defenses, I think, played the Browns differently. So like when you have Odell, you're worried about the deep threat, so you could try to kind of take away the deep threat, which might open some stuff for other guys for your tight end, for your run game. But I almost think like Odell is their best deep threat, but everybody knows that, which almost discourages deep threats, if that makes sense. Once you lose Odell, it's like there's nobody you're worried about deep. So then like a couple times, Daniel or Donovan Peoples-Jones gets deep, and it's like, man, good throw by Baker, nice catch by him. Who would have thought that? Well, the defense didn't think it. The defense was worried about Nick Chubb. So like Daniel Jones, does that mean Daniel Jones is the best deep thrower? No, it means that no defense is worried about him throwing deep. So they let him throw deep, so then he completes some of this stuff, right? So there's a push and pull that I'm very intrigued. When you get Odell back in the offense, it opens everybody else up. But I'm curious to see how the Browns execute the deep game, because then teams are ready for it. So they have to find a way to do it. They have to use Odell in that way. But Odell's presence alone creates opportunity for others and almost puts the defense on edge to guard against it. So I'm taking that stat with a grain of salt, because I think once Odell's on the field, I'm curious about Baker Odell deep balls, because that's going to make the difference. And I just don't think they're going to get to the Super Bowl probably throwing deep to DPJ.
What about, Schwartz? I mean, Anthony Schwartz is a guy that, it's intriguing. And you and I have talked a little bit about him. They didn't target him a lot downfield. It was get the ball in his hands and see if he can make something happen running the football, on short passes.
Yeah, he was much more a bubble screen guy at Auburn. Again, you can find film where he's open deep and Bo Nix, the Auburn quarterback, misses him. So, the receiver can only do so much. If the ball's not on target, you're not going to have a deep completion. I think it's like a wrinkle, right? I think it's you get Anthony Schwartz in the game and you take a shot. I don't know. You take 10 shots a year in 17 games to Anthony Schwartz. It's hard. All this stuff too, when you have such a successful running game, and I do think like Baker Mayfield can be efficient in that kind of thing. But when you have Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, you don't want to risk getting off schedule sometimes. If you're running the ball well, you're throwing some nice short stuff to the tight ends, or you're hitting Jarvis over the middle. It's like if you try a deep ball on 2nd and 7 and you miss it, well, now it's 3rd down. Or you try a deep ball on 1st and 10 when you're moving the ball, you miss it, now you're off schedule. I don't know that the Browns are that offense. I think the Browns are a roll down the field efficiently, working everybody. So I almost think sometimes they don't need to take deep shots. And I'm going to contradict myself. But on the other hand, like, let's get to Buffalo and Kansas City in the playoffs. And I think that's how you get over the top against teams like that. But I don't know that you need a ton of that to beat Cincinnati and Detroit and guys like that in the regular season.
Doug Lesmerises, columnist for The Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com, and I'm going to step aside, take a quick timeout. On the other side of the break, we'll take a look at the 5 best remaining free agents and how they might fit with the Browns. And plus, how did PFF do ranking the Browns this offseason? Sports4CLE will be right back talking Browns after this timeout. Stay with us.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
At Social Security, we are always thinking of ways to save you time and make things easier. That's why we created My Social Security. A My Social Security account allows you to access your earnings history and benefits information, request a replacement Social Security card, get a proof of income letter, estimate and apply for benefits, and more. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security. Securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Sports4CLE continues. I'm Dave Bacon. We continue talking Browns football with cleveland.com and plain dealer columnist Doug Lesmerises. So, Doug, 5 best remaining free agents for the Browns according to dogpounddaily.com. They are all defensive backs, so let's go through them. Number 1, they have Darqueze Dennard, former Cincinnati Bengal, Michigan State guy. Do you see him fitting here?
So, I mean, this is the discussion about sort of that fourth outside corner, right? And that again, if you have any iffiness about Greedy and his injury last year, or you have any iffiness about Greg Newsome as a rookie, you know, it'd be nice to have a veteran to throw in there. And again, we're talking about a team that last year wound up, you know, playing Robert Jackson in important snaps in a playoff game, and he did what he needed to do. So I do think that this is really interesting. You know, we had a long discussion on Gotta Watch the Tape that's going to air next week about like Demetric Felton and how he fits as like the third running back. This is what we're talking about with this team. And it's like, what should they do with their 38th best player on the roster? Because the first 37 are pretty set. But like your fourth outside corner can be super important before you know it. So I remember Darqueze Dennard from Michigan State. He was good then. I don't know who, but the idea to me generally of getting a little bit more established veteran for that fourth outside corner spot, you know, and given that, you know, Denzel sometimes misses some games, makes a lot of sense to me. I think that would be a worthy investment of a couple $1 million that they can spend to double check yourself so that in the playoffs, you're not playing a guy that you don't want to play. I'm good for Darqueze Dennard. I'll be curious to see what the other names are, but I like where this general conversation is.
Yeah, and again, these are guys that are probably only going to cost you it's a couple million between you and I of Jimmy Haslam's money. We're good for it. You know, he's good for it. All right, second on the list, Malik Hooker, safety, another guy that you're going to know pretty well.
So this is like, now we're start getting really interesting because that's safety stuff. And in college, Malik Hooker covered sideline to sideline as well as any free safety I'd ever seen. I mean, I can remember Greg Schiano when he was Ohio State's defensive coordinator was dropping Ed Reed comparisons about Malik Hooker. And he got to the NFL and he got hurt. That guy's a 12th pick in the draft, 15th pick in the draft, whatever he was. Like, that guy is a stud. He did his job at Ohio State as well as almost anybody I've seen do their job at Ohio State in 15 years. So the Browns are stacked at safety. You know, Ronnie Harrison long-term, I'm not sure what he is here. You know, Grant Delpit's going to be here for a while. John Johnson's going to be here for a while. If Malik Hooker's your fourth safety, you're in pretty good shape. But that, to me, just from my standpoint of having covered him in college, there was a time when he was special. Like, he did stuff that most people can't do. Go watch his pick on Deshaun Watson in the 2016 Fiesta Bowl in that college football playoff semifinal when Ohio State got roasted by Deshaun Watson 31-0. It should have been 38-0, but Malik Hooker covered so much ground on a throw to the corner of the end zone. No other safety in the country would have gotten there, and he got there. If that guy's floating around, that to me is a little bit investment in the future, because maybe there's a world where down the line, Grant Delpit, John Johnson, and Malik Hooker. are your three guys back there. But that's a little more flyer on upside. That guy, it's not that long ago, that guy was in the draft, and that guy was rare. So now you have my attention, Dave.
Yeah, and again, as you touched on, he just hasn't been healthy. Another name that we've heard a lot of, Brian Poole. Brian Poole is still out there as a corner, and he still fits into what the Browns want to do if the price is right, and again, you're talking that fourth corner.
I remember, before free agency, we all at cleveland.com all did our, hey, who should they go get? And some people are on Troy Hill and some people are on Poole. So they got Troy Hill, but like that he's still out there again. I think there's some flexibility there with playing inside and outside, if I remember correctly. He's done it, right? Like I'm here for it. Now you're making me think Hooker is a little more of a luxury to me. I feel like I'm going to come around. I think they need to sign one of these veteran corners. I think they need their fourth corner to be a guy like this, especially with Denzel sometimes misses games. Greedy missed all of last year. Greg Newsome is a rookie, and let's get a guy that we believe in as the fourth corner.
All right, we've got another name that you'll recognize, but we're not there yet. Next on this list is Trey Boston, a safety. Who became available a little bit after free agency got rolling. He was let go.
I don't know who that is.
Okay, we'll move on. Gary,
can we cut in the control room? Can we cut on Trey Boston? It made me look bad to not know who that is. All right. We'll edit that out in post.
Again, a veteran-type safety, very not quite as high upside as Malik Hooker, but a guy that has done it a little bit. Let's go to Garyon Conley. I know you know who that is. That's a guy from Massillon High School and also Ohio State.
And it's drafted in the first round by the Raiders. I think was with the Texans last year, right?
Yep.
Was traded by the Raiders. Garyon Conley is in this litany of first-round Ohio State corners. He was in the rotation with Denzel Ward the 1 year in 2016. Listen, this is the Ohio State defensive backfield in 2016. It's Marshawn Lattimore, Garyon Conley, Denzel Ward at corner, and Malik Hooker at safety. And how good that defensive backfield was. It's why they made the playoff. I think Conley is not as special as Hooker, which is not a slam on anybody. So I think he's good, but I'm less intrigued with him than I am with a guy like Denard.
Fair enough. All right, let's move on. How do you think Pro Football Focus did ranking the Browns? And they had them ranked pretty highly in most categories. Interior defensive linemen, nobody made their list. But offensive line, they had guys that were in the top 5 in most instances. Tackle, I think Conklin was 12th. You look at the way Nick Chubb was ranked high. How do you think Pro Football Focus did ranking the Browns?
No, I remember we covered this on the skill guys alone on our Orange and Brown Talk podcast, and I thought they've respected the Browns. I think Baker Mayfield was 10th, right? And that felt like almost exactly right to me. And Baker Mayfield, I think, was ahead of guys like Ryan Tannehill, some veterans like that, where you could understand, maybe some people would put a guy like that ahead. I think PFF, not surprisingly, right, the way they evaluate stuff, there's some cohesion between how the Browns operate and how a place like PFF operates. But I think it's correct respect for the Browns. If Joel Bitonio and Wyatt Teller are both top 10 guards, like that's right. Nick Chubb 4th at running back. We talked about that on our podcast. And we thought that showed respect to Nick Chubb because, Derrick Henry was ahead of him. Christian McCaffrey was ahead of him. It's like, well, can you really complain about that? I think it's reflective of reality. And what makes me mad is when, national people don't have the correct view on reality and they don't realize how good the Browns are. But I think when you get into it statistically, and then maybe you're looking at some upside and stuff, I think they're hitting on a lot of stuff there. Myles Garrett, it's a great time for edge rushers in the NFL right now, right? Just, 3 guys from Ohio State, Chase Young and the Bosa brothers, are unbelievable edge rushers. Then you throw in, all the other guys who are out there, TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, and that kind of thing. For Myles to be 4th there, we're talking about Myles could be number 1 by the end of the year. But I thought it was a nice, fair reflection of what the Browns actually are, which means they got a bunch of dudes ranked high.
Doug Lesmerises, columnist for cleveland.com as well as the Plain Dealer. As always, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Doug. Appreciate it.
I'm going to go study up on Trey Boston. Next show, I'm going to nail that question.
All right. Have a good holiday weekend and a great vacation. Doug Lesmerises, columnist for the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we will be joined by Munch Bishop from 1350 AM The Gambler. Talk a little bit of Browns. We'll talk a little bit of Cavs. We'll talk a little bit of Indians with Munch. Sports for CLE. He'll be right back. Stay with us.
Life is starting to get back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tric-edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
As the COVID-19 vaccines become available, you might be asking yourself, should I get it? And if I do, will I be able to go about life without putting my family at risk? You've got questions, and that's normal. The fact is, the vaccines are safe and effective. They're going to save lives. To get the latest on the COVID-19 vaccines, visit getvaccineanswers.org, because getting back to the moments we miss starts with getting informed. It's up to you.
Welcome back to Sports for CLE. I'm Dave Bacon. We're going to continue talking football. We will be joined just momentarily by Munch Bishop from 1350 AM The Gambler, Munch on Sports. Good Morning Football on NFL.com, NFL Network rather, ranked the top 10 rookie quarterback moments from the last 20 years. And checking in at number 7 was this moment involving the Browns' Baker Mayfield against the New York Jets. It's the first game that Baker came in and played for the injured Tyrod Taylor, and it was him getting the two-point conversion, catching the two-point conversion. He actually caught it, and that was ranked number 7. So let's welcome in Munch Bishop from 1350 AM The Gambler. Munch, the Baker two-point conversion catch, something memorable without question. Kind of gave you an idea that Browns might be onto something with Baker Mayfield.
David, I want to tell you something. And again, college doesn't always translate. However, when Baker went into, as I call it, you know, I am your noted Buckeye Hawk, Holber, and Shill, as he went into the bastion of civilization, the pride of Western men and women, Ohio Stadium, and beat the Buckeyes. He lost his tight end early in the game, his go-to guy, and did his job there. I knew he was special at that time. A lot of the Buckeyes said, stay away from, no, you know what? People always revisit history, you know? They try to change it. No, all the Buckeyes had to do is beat him, and he would have tried to plant the flag. I knew he was special then, but come on. A quarterback catching a two-point conversion. But David, you'll remember this like yesterday, so I know that you treasure things like this. One of my moments that I knew that the things had come to pass and he was where he needed to be. Remember the pass to Jarvis Landry? It was against the Panthers. What was it, about a 45, 50-yard pass? He fitted into a window. Probably a football could barely get through there, and he found him in the end zone. I'm thinking, you know what? This kid is special.
All right, we're going to listen. Let's listen in as Good Morning Football goes through that number 7 moment. So here it is. I forgot about the Bud Light fridges. That opened them up.
A quick story for you. I'll be quick. I was on the air because I was asked to do the post-game show. And again, I may be the squarest guy in Cleveland, okay, because Ray, our PD, said, you'll probably be the only one that's sober after the game. So I was doing a post-game show, but before it started, I had one of those refrigerators in my 1350 studio. I was on WTM 1100. We all went running in there, and David, it was all, electric with a signal. We heard this robotic noise like a boop, 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 boop. Next thing you know, the chain fell off, the padlock fell off, and the refrigerator was ravaged. After the show, I was going to have one, and guess what? There wasn't even one left. There were a few cases. It was probably better, because if you remember that night, it was so cool. Traffic, I got off there maybe about 1:30. Traffic was still loaded going out 90 on 77 because people stayed downtown. What a novel thing, right? And they celebrated a Browns win. What a great evening. David, was that a harbinger of things to come with this young man?
Let's certainly hope so. We'll find out exactly how much this year. All right, let's move on. NFL rankings for the triplets. So a quarterback, a running back, and wide receiver from CBSSports.com. Packers ranked number 1, Rodgers, Jones, and Adams. Chiefs 2, Mahomes, Edwards-Helaire, Kelsey 3. Cowboys with Prescott, Elliott, Cooper. They have the Browns way down at 11 with Mayfield, Chubb, and Beckham. Seems a little low. What's your take on that?
Well, number one, how could you even put Beckham in there? What did he do, last year? Now, technically, and we've seen him, he is an elite wide receiver in the National Football League. But, I got to ask you this. This goes back to my Buckeye roots. Did Ezekiel Elliott play last year? I'm only kidding. You know that. But, boy, he did not look like the Ezekiel Elliott that we saw at Ohio State running through the line, speeding away from SEC players. We didn't see him. That is much too low already. Come on, David. You know what? I know you're setting me up here to be a Browns homer, but the bottom line is Chubb may be the best running back in the NFL.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. I think the Browns are a little too low in that one. All right. Mark Munch Bishop and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. On the other side of the break, we will hear from Koby Altman. We'll talk a little bit of Cavs. We'll also talk a little bit of Indians. We'll take a look at Eli Morgan, scheduled to get the start for the Indians if Mother Nature cooperates. Sports4CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Life is starting to get back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tric-edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
First, they said cigarettes were safe. We know how that turned out. Now, they say they didn't market e-cigarettes to teens? Fact, more than 1 in 4 high school students are vaping, and 80% say their first e-cigarette was flavored. Vaping is harmful to developing brains. The reason we think vaping is safe? Marketing. Same lies, different day. Tell Big Vape to quit lying.
Welcome back to Sports4CLE. I'm Dave Bacon. We're going to shift our focus a little bit, start talking a little bit of Cavs. We'll also get into the Indians. But Koby Altman, general manager of the Cavs, finally met with his postseason wrap-up with the media and talked about where the Cavs sit as a team, as a franchise, and what the next step needs to be.
I think the next step is, and I think our guys are hungry. They see the playoffs. They see the intensity, the playing game. Like, they see that sort of one and done and the intensity of that. they're hungry now. And I think they understand, like, there's talent here. That has to now translate into wins at some point. And again, it's on me to help supplement that young talent. It's on JB to keep growing the culture here. He's done a wonderful job growing that, developing young talent. The vets all love him. Everybody, he has a great command of the locker room. The fans they want some winning basketball again. I totally get that. And it's not lost on me that we need to push this thing forward and start winning some basketball games. But we are sort of just in terms of year 3, we're in a really good position.
All right, let's bring back in Mark Munch Bishop, 1350 AM, The Gambler, Munch on Sports, also Cavs and Indians pregame. You hear Koby Altman talk. Again, young team, injured a lot. They need some lottery luck. They need that marquee guy that you can really build around at. And through no fault of their own, I don't think they have that yet.
You know, we can look at Sexton. We can look at Garland. Boy, they really came around, didn't they? I love our center. I saw Allen as a rookie go one-on-one with Embiid and actually play him even. So, yeah, the injuries do play a part there. I mean, Okoro showed flashes that he's going to be a very, very good player. But, David, sadly, none of them are those generational players, and they have to get one. Now, you mentioned the lottery. Right? They don't seem to be in a position to get one of those generational players. What they need to do is simply this. The coaching has to, or the scouting, and then in consortium with the coaches, hopefully go out and find a Greek freak or someone of that nature, someone even close, because he was taken, in the mid-teens? Yeah, they definitely need a roll of the dice to go their way somehow, some way this year.
Yeah, without question. So the other thing that Koby Altman addressed was this year's draft and the pieces that the Cavs might be looking for to build around.
It's a really deep draft. We certainly want to add size, athleticism. We got dynamic playmakers that really complement each other. That's another thing that we figured out this year. Colin and Darius had some of their best months together, specifically in April. And so if they can be successful together, which they've shown, how do we continue to build around that and supplement that and help them? So I think that those are the things we'll be looking for.
And Munch, when you look at it,
on him, I'm sorry.
No. I think when you look at it, they really need some three-point shooting and then some bigger guard. My concern with Garland and Sexton and in spurts it worked. Can you play them together consistently? Can they hold up defensively?
Well, number one, people always point to Donovan Mitchell and Mike Conley. Well, they've got a couple inches on each of our guys. Number two, boy, you can play them together. But can they hold up all the time defensively? Absolutely not. David, it's physics. When Mr. Beeline first came in, I was totally against a college coach. However, I saw what he did. I said, you know what? Maybe he can work with these young fellows. However, he lost me even before the season when he goes, hey, if I have to, I'll play 4 guards. Wait a minute. This isn't the MAC. And I love MAC basketball, okay? What is MAC basketball? 4 guards sometime and a power forward. It's not going to work in the NBA. Oh, and again, it's still heartbreaking, but there's a couple of guys floating around the NBA right now. One of them is not in the playoffs, and he's with Houston. I don't know if I would say his name and jinx him, but another one's a 6th man with Utah. They'd look awful good as a 6'4", 6'5" guard right now with the Cavaliers. There's going to be times the mismatch will be exploited to the point where it's going to kill you.
Yeah, and again, they need that generational guy, the number one option, if you will. Sexton might be a 2, Garland might be a 2, probably more likely 3rd options on championship teams. Right. And you can't have a 9-player rotation where you're starting with 3rd options the entire time.
David, you said something else. Who is the guy right now? And I can point to just about every team in the postseason that say, okay, we're going to roll you around a couple of picks. We're going to get you out to the arc. We're going to get you in 3-point territory and launch away. Is it Windler? We don't know because of his injuries. Right now, our small forwards is not Jetty. So do we have that guy? No, we don't. That he is the guy that we're dependent on to make those threes. At one time, it was Kevin Love. Who knows what's going to happen there? So that is so important. Nowadays, I saw Miami and Milwaukee yesterday. Milwaukee just raining threes. It was like a disco song, okay? Raining threes. And you need to have that to win basketball games these days.
Yeah, without question. It has become a three-point league. All right, time to switch our focus a little bit. So we're going to start talking a little bit of Indians baseball. So Eli Morgan gets called up, and there needs to be a corresponding move, which we have been told reportedly, assuming the Indians game becomes official, Jordan Luplow will be put on the IL to make room for Eli Morgan. Let's take a look at a little bit of video from Eli Morgan's last start in Triple-A, and it was actually pretty good. He's a guy who relies a lot on his changeup. Changeup is a really good pitch. He had a strained forearm, so he got a little bit of a late start on the Triple-A season. But you see 6 strikeouts in his last start against Toledo. That's what this is from. And he's going to be called upon. Indians need a lift to that rotation. And Munch, you mentioned, when we were talking, Indians need to get this game in. They have a doubleheader that they're staring out on Monday against the White Sox. They're going to do everything they can to play. This rotation needs a lift from some of the younger guys again. Because 4 and 5 have been problem spots, and now Zach Plesac is on the shelf with that injured thumb. So Indians need some of these young guys to step up.
David, I wish, we haven't become tainted as the years go by. If anything, we become wiser. Now, I want to tell you, David, this is the guy. He's going to come out there. I don't know that. You don't know that. And guess what? Tito and Carl Wills, they don't know that either. But right now, they have no choice because of the hand they've been dealt. There's no secret formula, no fairy dust to throw out or anything. Let's just hope Eli gives them somewhat of a decent outing. Let's hope he eats up a few innings, 5 or 6. Well, 6 would be a godsend. And what I know about him is what you just showed me is that he was the guy they tabbed to come up from AAA. The Indians could use this. And you're exactly right, because tomorrow's weather isn't supposed to be much better. Doubleheader on Monday, only trip for the Blue Jays in. And I got to tell you something. I love the game of baseball. So do you. I'm excited going as a fan tonight to watch young Mr. Guerrero, young Mr. Bichette, young Mr. Biggio, Gurriel. They've got a fun young baseball team. Yeah, and it's a pretty good offensive team, so it's going to be a challenge for Eli Morgan getting the start tonight, without question. Yeah, and again, eat up some innings. Are we due for a little good? We're not owed anything, right? But are we due for a little? Are the Indians due for just maybe a little luck, a little break here and there? You know as well as I do, there are baseball gods. That's with a small G. Let's hope they're smiling on the guys with Black C. Yeah, without question, because they're going to need it again, that doubleheader. So that's going to tax the rotation. Good sign, though. We talked about this guy last Friday, Eddie Rosario, starting to hit the baseball at the right time. Without question, they need. Well needed. I thought we were going to a clip. He's well needed. And you know what? What a nice start against Minnesota if he's going to do anything. But no. He has filled in nicely and doing his thing. Progressive Field actually was his home field, not Target, even though people would tell you that's where it was because his stats at Progressive Field were great. They were pretty good in Comerica over the weekend. So the bottom line, or actually during the week. So let's hope that he has started. Right now, it's more than all hands on deck. It's the competent, capable baseball hands on deck. And we know Eddie, looking at his track record, he can, quote unquote, do the job. Let's hope he gets it done. Mark Munch Bishop, as always, appreciate the time and the insight. Enjoy the game, Munch. I'm sure we will talk to you again next week, the week after, so we appreciate the time and the insight. Thank you. I'm dressing like I'm going to a football game tonight, okay? All right. All right, we'll talk to you, Munch. Appreciate it, man. All right, have a good one. Mark Munch Bishop. That'll do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. No show on Monday. Tuesday, scheduled guests, Mary Kay Cabot, Cameron Justice from News Channel 5. Have a great holiday weekend. We will see you again Tuesday at 4 o'clock right here on Sports for CLE. We'll see you then.